Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football, TITTH number 20. We are in our 20s now. Today, we're going to be covering our Week 10 must-starts at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end position. Last night, Thursday Night Football, pretty entertaining game. Really liked what I saw out of both sides, other than Phillip Rivers coming out and throwing 2 interceptions right away. Didn't know how that was going to help the over, but sure enough, it did, letting up a pick 6. I took the over in last night's game, parlayed with a Raiders win, so solid for me. That was good stuff. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of action last night as well. So let's just jump into the Week 10s here. Week 10 must-starts. Like a lot of Titans this week, you're going to see a lot of Titans on this list, playing the Chiefs in Tennessee. First up, Ryan Tannehill hosting the Chiefs. It sounds like Mahomes is good to go. He's been practicing in full this week. So I expect there to be a lot of positive game flow from Mahomes coming back in. The defense for the Chiefs isn't going to be on the sideline as long as it has been resting. So that's going to play a role in this game and in the game flow. Chiefs have allowed 6 passing touchdowns in the past 2 weeks, so plenty of upside here for Tannehill and all of his weapons. Tannehill can easily grab a pair of touchdowns in this game, potentially a third. Not quite sure if we're going to hit the third. He does still have Derrick Henry there that should have a pretty fair amount of volume this week. But Kansas City is allowing the 10th most fantasy points to the quarterback position. I like Tannehill to get over 300 yards in this game. Playing at home, isn't going to hurt him either. Only threat for him this week, in my opinion, is Derrick Henry. I like all the Titans' weapons this week, so fire up Ryan Tannehill. We'll get to some of these other Titan guys here soon, but I think there's a lot of positive game flow, like I said, for both quarterbacks with Mahomes coming back in. Really speeds up the pace of play, so I really like both quarterbacks in that matchup. Obviously, any week that Mahomes is practicing in full and good to go, you're getting him into your lineup. I don't think I need to say as much. Start Mahomes this week. A little extra there, a little freebie. Next up, we have Kyler Murray at the Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is allowing the 5th most fantasy points to the quarterback position. They've allowed 14 passing touchdowns in the past 4 games and 6th most passing yards allowed in the air. The Arizona defense isn't great either. So again, a game where there's going to be some positive game flow for both quarterbacks. That doesn't mean go start Jameis Winston. That's not what I said. It's not what I said. Jameis Winston, and kind of like a middle-of-the-road start this week. It's not a guy that I'm saying, hey, you have to get him in your lineup. The numbers are there for him. The matchup is there, but he is just mistake-oriented. He is mistake-prone to throwing interceptions, putting the ball on the ground, whatever it is. I don't trust Jameis Winston. So I think this week is going to be easy money for Murray owners. I think there's going to be a lot of check-down work to Kenyon Drake and David Johnson. David Johnson will be back this week, and the Buccaneers are pretty good against the run. That is a strength of theirs. So I do see a lot of check down work. Kenyon Drake came in last week and was able to provide a really good supplementary performance with David Johnson out, Chase Edmonds injured. So I think he's going to continue to get used, at least in the passing game, if they're not using him up the middle. So yeah, plenty of work this week for Murray. Should have an easy go of it in Tampa Bay. I think it is going to be a higher scoring game. So fire up Kyler Murray and some Cardinals here without any hesitation. Next up, we have Matt Stafford at the Bears. I like Stafford at the Bears. I know the Bears aren't very numbers friendly. They don't allow big numbers for the quarterback position. But Stafford's coming off a 400-yard game. He's been rolling in recent weeks. He's solidified that QB1, top 5 QB in the league type of level right now. So that's where he's at. He's a little bit banged up with some minor back issues this week. I think it's really just rest. Trying to keep him maybe a little bit less contact situations in practice. When you're going to be facing that, really stiff Bears rushing defense, they're going to be pressuring the quarterback quite a bit because the Lions have found their new identity in passing the ball. I love it. I don't like the carry-on went down. That's really unfortunate. I really like watching him play this year, but seeing the Lions pass the ball a lot, is kind of what I was hoping for in preseason, kind of similar to the Titans, having all the weapons that they have, but not having the quarterback in position to, have that type of identity. Now with Tannehill, they do. And with Stafford and his situation with carry on out, now they have the weapons and the ability to really go pass heavy. And I don't think that's going to be very helpful for the Bears this week. The last Lions running back to get over 9 carries. I believe it was Trey Carson in that first game with Carrion out. They didn't have one last week, so I'm not really sure who the volume runner would be up against the Bears, despite their lack of success on the ground, up against the run in recent weeks anyways. With Akeem Hicks being out, the Bears have just been getting run on consistently. But I think this week there's going to be, again, a lot of check down work for Stafford and the running backs. They're going to find creative ways to get the ball out quickly because that's going to benefit the game plan up against the Bears' poor rushing defense. Right now they got Mack up front and a couple of decent safeties in the backfield that might be able to pick off a ball here or there, but I'm not expecting it this week. I think the Lions are going to take care of business in Chicago. I think they're going to be doing a lot of passing this week, as they have been in recent weeks. I think they're like the 5th most passing team since Carrion went down in week 7. So look for Stafford to keep rolling this week in Chicago. Throws a couple of touchdowns. Needs to stay away from the interception territory, and I think he can do that. So give me a couple of touchdowns this week for Matt Stafford and over 250, 275 passing yards. Next up, we have Josh Allen at the Browns. Cleveland has allowed the 7th most passing touchdowns in the league, and they've allowed 2 passing touchdowns in the last 6 games. Just 6 games straight, at least 2 touchdowns. The only quarterback not to throw 2 touchdowns up against the Browns was Luke Falk. So even in I can't remember who they played in week 1, but the week 1 opponent scored or passed for 3 passing touchdowns. So they've allowed at least 2 passing touchdowns in every game this season, other than to Luke Falk. So if you think Josh Allen is better than him, I think you can feel pretty good starting this week. The Browns have also allowed 4.9 yards per carry. So there's plenty of upside in the rushing attack for the Bills this week and for Josh Allen. We've all been waiting for that one game for him to bust out and go for big numbers with his feet and with his legs, but we haven't quite seen it yet. Here's another opportunity. Here's another spot where we could see him, rack up maybe over 50, over 60 rushing yards. I like Allen to throw for 2 passing touchdowns this week and add 1 more on the ground with his legs. Bills are just going to, in general, keep the chains moving in this game, so I like the upside for Allen a lot. Again, the Browns are allowing 4.9 yards per carry on the ground. Gore and Singletary will get plenty of work. I expect the Bills' offense to be on the field quite a bit in this game. Trying to dominate the clock and possession on the road against the Browns. So yeah, I like him this week. Fire him up, no issues whatsoever. No hesitation for me to get Allen in the lineup. Lastly, for the quarterbacks, we have Dan Jones at the Jets at home. Giants and the Jets staging the battle for MetLife Stadium. So the Jets are technically going to be the home team in this regard, but obviously both teams are playing at home, so going to be a pretty friendly atmosphere for both sides. The Jets have allowed 6 passing touchdowns over the past 2 games, have allowed at least 250 passing yards, and 7 out of their 8 games this season, and they have allowed the 12th most passing yards just in general. So I like the upside for Dan Jones this week. Really unfortunate. I tried to grab him in the league, and I thought that I did, but he went through waivers, so I didn't get him, and I had to start Phillip Rivers last night. But it's all good. Phillip Rivers still grabbed a couple of touchdowns. Just, man, those damn interceptions. What are you going to do? So, yeah, I really wanted to grab Jones this week and fire him up, but I didn't realize that he was going through waivers, and I didn't stand a chance on him. So, it is what it is. But the Giants take the Battle of MetLife on the road at home. I expect the Giants to win here. The defense has looked really bad in recent weeks for the Jets. The Jets have a bit of a better rushing defense, so I do expect Jones to have to pass quite a bit. Obviously, you have Saquon Barkley staying there right next to you, so you can still hand the ball off to him. He's going to have success on the ground up against this Jets defense. It's just that is a strength of theirs, and I could see them giving Barkley a little bit of pushback early on, and I could see him catching some balls out of the backfield. So just lends for more upside for Dan Jones. Fire him up, no hesitation. So that was Dan Jones, Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray, and Ryan Tannehill. Fire them up this week, guys. No issues whatsoever. If you got another reason why, or if you have a reason why they shouldn't, let me know. Running backs, another Titan, Derrick Henry. Like the Titans this week, like I said. Chiefs allowing the 2nd most yards on the ground, 10 rushing touchdowns allowed to the running back position, and 3rd most first downs allowed on the ground. So going to be a lot of activity out of Derrick Henry this week. He catches a ball or 2 out of the backfield as well. I could see him catching a touchdown this week. 4.8 yards per carry allowed on the ground. A ton of upside here up against the Chiefs' rushing defense. Easy money for Derrick Henry owners. Derrick Henry, came out at the midway point and said, "Hey, second half, I'm gonna fire it up. I'm going to take it to the hizzy. We're going to take it home. His performances are going to be better. He's going to be putting up crazy numbers. And so far, he's put up 2 touchdowns, last week. So, hey, playoff mode activated. Let's go. Fire up Derrick Henry this week. No issue whatsoever. Next up, we have Jamal Williams hosting the Panthers. Obviously, you're going to be starting Aaron Jones for sure, but you're also absolutely firing up Jamal Williams right now every week, especially in a matchup like this. Carolina has allowed the most touchdowns on the ground, 5.1 yards per carry. I see Jones and Williams getting included in the rushing attack. Just with this matchup alone, you may not see Williams get a ton of carries every week, but I think in this matchup, it lends enough upside for both guys that they're both going to get plenty of usage, protect Rodgers, protect the passing game, eat some clock, possess the ball at home, a pretty good opponent, in the Panthers with a guy like CMC that you want to keep on the sideline as much as humanly possible. And the way to do that is to own the clock, pound the ball into the ground, and keep the chains moving. And I think the Packers are going to try to do that this week. Jamal Williams has been targeted 7 times in the red zone. That's 4th most at the running back position. Him and Jones are just a strong tandem, Williams and Jones. So I like Williams to find pay dirt, and I think Jones can do the same this week as well. Panthers defense recently has just been really, really bad up against the run. I'm not sure this is a big blow-up spot for Aaron Rodgers. Don't think he's going to throw 5 or 6 touchdowns. I think it's going to be more of a running, ground and pound type of game. Not for both sides, because I think Carolina could be chasing points in this game early on. I think the Packers come out, hit them in the teeth, score a couple of score on a couple of early possessions, whether it's touchdown, field goal, whatever. I think that the Packers are going to put the pressure on the Panthers pretty quick in this matchup, and they have the weapons to do so on the ground and in the air. So I like the Packers a lot this week at home. Fire up Jamal Williams, no concern whatsoever. He's rolling right now. If you're looking at the numbers and not seeing him get enough usage in the running game, believe me, he gets used plenty. He's on the field enough. He gets red zone looks, like I mentioned. So he has plenty of upside this week up against a juicy matchup with the Panthers at home. Okay, next up I have David Montgomery. Lions coming to town to face the Bears. Detroit has given up the most fantasy points this season and has allowed the 9th most rushing yards allowed on the ground. So I like the value there. I like the upside for David Montgomery this week. I do think that the Bears might be chasing points at home. I think they're going to be behind in this game. Like I said before about Stafford, they've become a very pass-heavy team, and I'm not sure that the Bears have the weapons to go completely one-dimensional on any team right now on defense. So I like David Montgomery this week. I do think that the Bears are going to be chasing some points. That could hinder his value a little bit, could propel Tariq Cohen to get a couple more touches this week. But realistically, I still think that Montgomery gets 85 all-purpose yards and finds the end zone this week. So definitely hits over those numbers, 85, 100 all-purpose yards, finds a touchdown. I think that's easy money this week with the Lions coming to town. Again, they're really soft up against the run, haven't been great on the ground, so there's plenty of upside for him this week. Definitely fire him up in your lineup. Next up, we have Devin Singletary and Frank Gore at the Browns. Can't really say to bench Frank Gore, and then propel Devin Singletary in there. I like Devin Singletary a little bit more. Just has a little bit more upside, being able to catch balls out of the backfield. But Josh Allen isn't adding one with his legs, and Frank Gore is definitely finding pay dirt this week. So both of these guys are definitely in play for me. Like I mentioned before, the Browns are allowing 4.9 yards per carry. They're allowing the 12th most fantasy points to the running back position and the 8th most yards allowed on the ground. So plenty of upside here. Singletary, I like him more. Should catch some balls out of the backfield, but I do expect Frank Gore to find pay dirt if Josh Allen isn't rushing in for a touchdown. I think they rush in for a couple of touchdowns, pass for a couple of touchdowns, easily hit like the mid-30s in the scoring. So I like the Bills a lot this week, especially the runners, Devin Singletary, Frank Gore, and then, of course, Josh Allen, passing the ball can add some value on the ground with his legs. So fire up all 3 of those guys for sure. The receivers, Beasley, John Brown, don't get cute with it, right? Don't start into the deeper guys. I think you can probably even take Dawson Knox, out of that Bills card. So yeah, fire up Singletary, fire up Gore, Allen, like I mentioned before. They're in line for a big week in Cleveland. Defense there's just been so bad. Okay, next up we have Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake, a little bit more of a contrarian play this week, I think. I'm not sure if everyone's rushing to get him back in their lineups with David Johnson coming back from his ankle injury. I'm saying keep Kenyon Drake in your flex for sure, at least. I think he's going to have some good value this week. I think he has earned a role after his performance last week. He played about 84% of the snaps last week. Obviously the numbers were all there. He played great. I think he's going to get some third down work in this game, and I think it's going to be more of a split than it is a David Johnson, come back and, taking over the workload here. I think both of them are going to be involved, and I think Drake is the one that finds the end zone this week because I think he's going to be the one that's catching a couple more balls. David Johnson is a pass-catching running back, a very good one at that, but he is coming back from an ankle injury. It's an injury that prohibits or can prevent running efficiency. Right? It's your ankle. It's not his wrist. It's not like his broken wrist injury. Right? So I think Kenyon Drake is in line for a decent workload this week, especially up against a rushing defense that has had some success. So I think that he gets involved in more of a pass-catching role, and that he's providing you again another fantasy relevant week. So definitely get him into your lineup. I like Kenyon Drake a lot this week. David Johnson coming back. I understand if you feel you have to get him in your lineup, but I don't feel like it's an absolute necessity. I don't think that he's going to go off for big numbers. I think they're going to manage his workload, and we're going to see a little bit more Kenyon Drake and Christian Kirk. Next up, wide receivers. Guess what? Christian Kirk. Let's just skip right to him. Tampa allowing the most fantasy points to wide receivers. The sixth most passing yards allowed in the air. 19 receiving touchdowns allowed in the year. Fifth most catches allowed. Need I go on? The upside is just all there for the receivers for Arizona. Christian Kirk, the best playmaker they have in the receiving room, in my opinion, right now. And that's just because Larry's not getting fed. Like, if you don't feed Fitzgerald the ball, he's not going to be a big playmaker for you. That's just what it is. He doesn't have a ton of speed. He's not going to break down the sidelines for wide open, blow up the top, take it to the hizzy, type of plays. He's going to be a really solid option for you underneath. And whether it's the defenses just locking him in, not giving him any room to work, or Murray just not feeding him the ball, I don't know which it is, but either way, Kirk has been the most consistent option right now for those receivers for the Cardinals. I think he's in line for at least 7+ catches and a touchdown this week. I would love for Fitzgerald to get into the end zone. I'm probably going to start him in a spot or two just because I have to. Buys, lack of availability on waivers, whatever it is. I'm going to be plugging him in, and I'm going to be hoping and praying for a touchdown. But right now, that's all Larry Fitzgerald is touchdown dependent. So I like Kirk a lot more. Definitely going to be plugging him into my lineup this week if I have him. Get him in there. Going to be a good matchup at Tampa Bay against the Bucs. Okay, next up we have Michael Gallup. I like Gallup a lot this week. I think he can grab a couple of touchdowns. I think there is going to be a lot of attention on Cooper, and Cooper's been battling with a knee injury this week, so I think there's a little bit more upside for Gallup in the run game this week. I like Witten as well. I'll get to him in the tight ends here soon, but Gallup is in line for a good spot. Vikings have allowed the 4th most receptions on the year. I think he can easily get 6 to 8 catches and even find pay dirt maybe even twice. I think he does catch a touchdown this week, and maybe even 2. Gallup has been really an X factor for Dak Prescott this year. When he's in the lineup, the offense just looks a lot better. So I think that he's going to get included quite a bit this week. Like I said, give me 6 to 8 catches and a touchdown, maybe even 2. Next up, I have Jamison Crowder with the Giants. This is the home game, away game for everybody. Giants allowing the 5th most passing yards, 5th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position, and he's just been the most reliable option for Sam Darnold thus far. He's the guy that's getting found consistently. Another guy I like to grab 5 to 7 catches and a touchdown. The matchup's just going to be there. I think there's going to be positive game flow for both sides. Should be good amount of offense available. Going to be good attacks from the rushing side out of the Giants. I think the Jets are going to have to pass a lot. Not sure what's going on with Le'Veon Bell, but he's not trending in a great direction right now, so I think they're going to have to go pass heavy. So yeah, definitely fire up some Jamison Crowder this week. Should be in line for a good amount of work. Just getting a ton of action out of the slot. And again, he's just been Darnold's most reliable option, so I think you need to keep flowing him out there. Next up, I have Josh Reynolds. Brandon Cooks is going to be out of this matchup. Not sure how many weeks he's going to be out. Reynolds last week had 8 targets with him out of the lineup, so there's plenty of upside there. He's going to be playing as an every down type of wide receiver, and he does have some preference from Jared Goff, in my opinion. He does get targeted in the red zone. Like I said, he got targeted 8 times last week. Obviously, Woods and Kupp are still the guys that are there, right? They're the most talented, but I think that Reynolds does sneak in a touchdown this week. behind the Pittsburgh secondary. They're going to be tied up, with Kupp and Woods, and probably even honing in on Gurley some. So I like the upside for Reynolds this week. I think he just gets forgotten in that backfield and can sneak in a touchdown. So fire up Josh Reynolds this week. If you did add him, it may be one of the few weeks that you can use him while we wait for the diagnosis from Cooks and what's going to happen with him going forward. We're not really sure yet. So this week, I feel really confident starting Reynolds. Going to find the end zone this week. Next up, Allen Robinson with hosting the Lions. Has had some bad outings in recent weeks, but I think that we can throw those games out. I think this is a good get right situation for him. I'm sorry. The Lions have allowed the 7th most passing yards. I think he can easily get 7 to 8 catches and a touchdown. I think the volume will be there for him this week, and they just really need to focus on moving the ball down the field with efficiency. And Allen Robinson, in the passing attack, I don't know anyone else there that's been as consistent as him. Again, the past 2 weeks, I feel like they just went really more run heavy, and it limited the options and upside for Robinson. But this week, I think that the Bears are going to get him the ball more. I think that they saw, in recent weeks, the lack of success they had in the passing game, and they're going to acknowledge that and, get Robinson rolling again, once again this week. So definitely get him back in your lineups. Don't be concerned with the past couple weeks. I definitely think he goes out there and is very fantasy relevant this week. Provides you, like I said, 7 to 8 catches and a touchdown. Tight ends. First up, Ryan Griffin for the Jets, hosting the Giants at home, at away, whatever. Griffin's been solid in recent weeks. He was on the injury report yesterday, but he practiced in full at the same time. Kind of interesting. I don't know if it's just rest or just limiting his reps or whatever it is, but Chris Herndon is still not 100%, so I think Griffin is still going to be the guy this week. He has at least 50 yards receiving or a touchdown in 3 of his past 4 games, so I think there's plenty of upside there. Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold are just not on the same page. I don't understand it. So someone else has to catch the ball other than Jamison Crowder, and I think Griffin's going to be the guy to do it this week. Could see him sneaking in a touchdown, but I think he just gets a fair amount of volume, like 5 to 6 catches and maybe like 60 to 70 yards receiving, just because I think that they're going to be passing a lot. I'm not really sure what's going to be going on with the rushing game. They don't run the ball a lot regardless, but still, if you don't have Bell there, that's going to limit your options out of the backfield. Ty Montgomery is not a supplement to what Le'Veon Bell can provide your offense. So firing up Griffin this week. If Herndon's healthy, and you need a deep flyer, I suppose you could get him in there. I suppose, if he's live, he is active, that, he could come down with something for you, could somehow find a way to be fantasy relevant, but I just don't see it. And we should probably see Chris Herndon, play some before we go ahead and plug him into lineups. But I think he's a deep stash, in some deeper leagues. So a guy to hang on to, but still firing up Ryan Griffin this week should be a good spot for him at home against the Giants, who are also at home. Right, battle for my life. Next up, I have Kyle Rudolph hosting the Cowboys. Traveling to the Cowboys. Kyle Rudolph and the Vikings going to Dallas. Rudolph put together a couple of decent weeks as of late. Thielen is still out. Lends a plenty of opportunity for the tight ends to grab a score, maybe even Olabisi Johnson still. Dallas has allowed the 9th most fantasy points to the tight end position. Plenty of upside there. I like Rudolph a little bit more than Irv Smith just because he has been able to find the end zone so far this season. Irv Smith, very athletic player, a little bit more speedy, legs are a little bit more lively than Rudolph. But at the same time, Rudolph, stays on the field a lot. Great blocker, another one of those guys, kind of like Witten, that can do, this nice little slip block, push, slide, wide open catch, stuff like that. So I like Rudolph this week. I think he's a good plug and play. I'm plugging him in on a Zach Ertz bye week, so don't really feel like I'm getting the short end of the leash there. I think he'll be able to provide for me and even for you guys this week, so definitely fire him up. Next up, I have Jonnu Smith against the Chiefs, another Titans player that I like. Delaney Walker still out, not ready to go yet, so another week of plenty of Jonnu Smith. Delaney Walker could be a game-time decision and sneak into lineup, but even if he did, I don't think that he plays a ton. I think this is another Jonnu Smith week, and I do think that he finds the end zone this week. Should be a good matchup, hosting the Chiefs, like I mentioned before, with Mahomes coming back. Positive game flow for both quarterbacks, going to equate to more fantasy production for all the other players. The Chiefs have allowed the 10th most fantasy points to the tight end position. They actually allowed a touchdown last week to Rudolph, so recency bias. Give me some more Jonnu Smith. I'm firing him up this week. Should get some steady targets and plenty of action in a potential shootout this week. Next up, we got Jason Witten with the Vikings, coming off a season high game totals. I think he had like 8 catches and a touchdown. He hasn't had a touchdown, I'm sorry, until like week 1 or week 2. But he did have 8 catches last week. Was very steady, mainstay part of the offense. So I like him again this week. He's caught at least 4 passes, in the past 3 weeks. I like him to catch 4 or 5 balls and find the end zone this week. Minnesota, going to have their hands full with Cooper, maybe even Gallup at some point. So I think that Witten, can find the end zone late in this game. I think it's going to be a really good game. I believe this is a Sunday night game. Minnesota Vikings offense been rolling. Dallas Cowboys coming off a good performance. So I'm hoping for some heavy hitting here in this matchup. I'm looking for a lot of scoring. So I like Witten to find the end zone in this game as well. That nice little fade rollout play. Like we're gonna push everybody up the middle, and Witten's just walking to the corner of the end zone wide open. I think we could see one of those plays this week. Just a nice easy touchdown for him, walk-in play, while everyone's got their attention on Zeke and Cooper and Gallup alike. So fire up Jason Witten this week. He's been consistent. He's not in the tight end 1 conversation, but he gets consistent production and provides consistent points. Whether they be small or big, he is there consistently. So a guy that you can rely on to get you at least 4 to 6 points, I suppose, if you absolutely need it. 6 is better than 0, right? Next up, we got Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron with Miami. I think you can actually start both of these guys. I'm obviously less excited about starting Ebron. Ebron plays like 25% of the time, something like that. Doesn't get a ton of snaps, but hey, because of that, he's been bitching his ass off to Frank Reich. So could see Ebron get some more action this week. He has been complaining or conversing about his role, however he wants to draw it up. But you have Hilton out, you have Campbell out. I obviously like Zach Pascal this week. I think everyone's on him. Not really a sneaky play anymore. But Doyle caught a touchdown last week. Plays about 70% of the time. Plenty of snaps. Is on the field a lot. So I like him more. But hey, Eric Ebron's been bitching, so he may be in line to get the touchdown this week, just to shut him up for a couple more weeks, so they can continue to use their guys however they want to use them. Eric Ebron was like comeback player of the year last year. Awesome, fun to see. But you have Jack Doyle there, who's more than capable, is healthy, wasn't healthy last year, right? So I think both of these guys can get fed in this game. Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron. I like Jack Doyle more, but I think you get an Eric Ebron into your lineup this week. It's a soft matchup with Miami. I think he can find the end zone. I think I mentioned before in a previous video about how Doyle works all the way up the field, and Ebron can come out in the red zone, or Ebron can come in to play in the red zone, and they bring Doyle out. Ebron more of a big body, big target receiver in the red zone, a little bit more favorable down that close to the goal line. Could see a little bit of the same thing this week, I'm not sure, but I like both of these guys in this matchup. With Hilton and Campbell being out, they are going to need a few more weapons to get to work this week. So, fire up Ebron, fire up Doyle, no concern whatsoever. That's the must-starts, guys. We ran through every position. That's it. Sunday, we got the Week 10 preview coming out. I'm not sure if we're going to do that live or just do that early in the morning. I'm leaning more towards going live again. Just means that we're going to be on Facebook rather than YouTube, which is fine. But hey, man, go out there and get me a couple more followers, please. Like, share, subscribe to the video, to the channel. Support. Do the damn thing. Really need some help here so we can go live on Facebook, live on YouTube. We need like 1,000 followers on YouTube to go live. So help, please. Just kidding. Really appreciate all the support, guys. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Honing in on the playoffs here, getting closer and closer. Really excited. Hopefully you guys are taking it to the hizzy. If you need some help, need some assistance, get at me. I'm ready to go. Week 10 is here. I'll see you next time. Later.